Hello. I guess I'm just gonna start trying to make some videos because I think I have slightly unusual deck building ideas, but I think everyone is gonna I don't know has talked about even on the vintage Pauper, the MTGO Pauper. People are trying out these poison decks. So I had posted one before where I was using Tolarian Terrors in the main, but after a little bit more testing, not really that much, I think it's actually probably better just to go main deck, no creatures. And I mean, the deck really, I mean, Infectious Inquiry is probably the best card of the deck. It just hums along, you draw 2 cards, you play some stuff, you remove the opponent's creatures, and then you basically use all these cycler cards. I mean, I guess for an inventory, you kind of just refill. But Infectious Inquiry is good because it's good early, and it's good to finish the game because obviously it's your win condition. And then, Frantic Inventory is a solid, and then combined with Mystic Sanctuary is, I think, another card. When you go creatureless, you have all this selection, so that's why I added these random one-ofs. Dispel, Davriel's Withering, because basically, I think Innocent Blood is by far the best removal spell you could be playing if you're going creatureless. But sometimes you want the threat of having some sort of instant speed interaction with only holding up 1 mana. So if they know that somewhere in your deck's a Davriel's Withering, they kind of have to respect it a little bit. They can't just load up a creature with ethereal armor. And then this is just a solid removal spell, even in a not poison deck. Same with the counter spell. Getting turned on later when already Quench was basically playable is awesome for a control deck that's looking to go long. And then this Anticipate with basically advancing your win condition. So all the deck it all kind of comes together and it works pretty well. Basically the sideboard's just anti-control stuff, and I don't know, random. If affinity is fast enough, it might put you kind of to the task, and so random annul. Maybe I'd probably swap this annul, put another annul in to have the 4 annuls, and then the full 4 dispels, and then this is a maybe thing. I don't know if it's better to just put in Tendrils and have more removal spells to gain some life, but it worked against mono green. I think he either didn't have any removal or he sided out his removal after game 1, and then I sided into these, and I just played the Tolarian Terror on turn 4 or 5, and he just sat there and he couldn't attack into it until he built up his it was like a proliferate deck, so he was trying to build up his guys, and it just stalled for so many turns. I just had all the answers by then, and then putting Fangs on him allowed me to kind of play the back and forth race game. And I didn't talk about the tendrils. So one benefit to having this is you get the Contaminated Aquifer and the Ice Tunnel both have the dual typing. So they count for the swamps for your tendrils, and they count for Mystic Sanctuary. So generally the way the games go, as long as you have 1 swamp or 1 black producing land, you're just going to be searching up with these. You're going to be searching up your islands, so until you have 3 islands. So then whenever you draw your Mystic Sanctuary, it comes in up tapped. But then after that, you're just grabbing all the swamps to just turn on your tendrils even more. But it really is not going to be a huge tendrils in this deck. Even if you pulled out everything, that's a max of 11 life gain. But again, it's the whole thing with recurring it. So if I'm in a matchup where tendrils is good, I just have to find the first one, and then I'll probably keep recurring it with 1 or 2 more Mystic Sanctuaries. Same with all the other one-ofs. They can just get recurred a lot. So that was Poison Control, which is a deck I'm going to be playing this Monday and probably going forward in Historic Pauper. Then the deck I've been finishing up with playing in the Historic Pauper without the 1 cards is this one, the Zealot card. So so this is my second iteration of Zealot. I actually cut the oh gosh, I forgot what it's called. The enchantment. Oh gosh, it's in the other deck. Where it was solid for turning on your madness creatures. Modern Age. That's the deck. So this is the old iteration, trying to power up or trying to kind of leverage the card advantage of Modern Age and discarding Kinchin Imp and putting some pressure on some random creatures, and then finishing off with the Gouged Zealot combo with Death Touch. But this deck, I don't know. It was just like, yeah, this came down cheap, but this deck didn't really want a 1-mana 2/2 haste with flying, no matter how good that raid is. You're just looking to get to Zealot and then finish the game with like rando faceless agents attacking. And actually today, I'm gonna post that other video of me against Endless, and basically the only reason why I won is I just had random faceless agents attacking for the whole game. And then it just added up enough damage that I was just able to kind of finish off the game with just random attacking dudes, and really didn't come into play that my Zealot had Death Touch, except for, well, I guess one time I swung with him, and then I wasn't intending for him to stay around. So this is much more focused on getting the Zealot. So I guess just not relying on the madness. So the only madness combo is basically Bitter Reunion with Fiery Temper, and that's just to slow the opponent down while having this threat on the board of haste, right? So if you have 5 mana, the opponent's always scared, and then the other thing is Bitter Reunion being an enchantment kind of gets you generally your fourth card type for Delirium. So it's a very nice addition to this deck. I think it was Endless himself who found that kind of interaction where it was a definite improved card type. And then as far as your sorcery, I mean, this is by far the best one. I wrote about it. It's the whole reason to use the bridges. Solid card advantage, and it rams you and threatens the opponent with throwing it on a Zealot and having haste very quickly. And then so all these cards are card advantage. And basically, compared to Modern Age, I thought Wellspring plus Deadly's Dispute combo was the better combo. And I just maxed out on the Ichor Wellsprings, and then Deadly Dispute, I didn't have enough room for all of them. But what I figured was, what I added when I changed over to this kind of thing is, you see a very, very little blue, but the goal of, or the end game of this deck, if you can't finish the opponent off with Zealot by being patient, you would have to go with the Elementalist loop with Wonder and Death. And then so you can bring back, and they'll still have the Perpetual Death Touch, and so then it kind of it's this inevitable clock that the opponent has to deal with. So yeah, I mean, and so it's very little blue in the main deck. Again, with this end game, it's very powerful. The only thing that's really going to interrupt it in game 1 is counter spells, and so that's why I wanted to go Dispel. And then it also feeds into the whole thing where you want to swing with the Zealot once. So as long as you get a swing, so I always am just looking for 1-mana spells to get him through on that first turn. So generally, you have to have 6 mana, because you're 4 mana to cast a Zealot, 1 mana to sack the Bitter Reunion, give it haste, and then 1 mana to hold up, because most people who are playing now know that they need to be able to remove the Zealot the turn it comes in if you have a Bitter Reunion in play. And then the reason why I'm playing the Shore Up is Shore Up just crushes decks that rely on sorcerer speed removal. So any of the enchantment removal or the sorcerer speed removal, it's a better Dispel. But Dispel is good for the counter spells. And then so in the sideboard, I really think Dispel is one of the best cards right now to be playing. There's just so many instants that are very powerful that are kind of must answer. So being able to board up to the full 4 to spell, and then having another shore up as well to protect your Zealot. Yeah, like some of the things that Dispel is so good against is it basically shuts down the Mogwarts combo because you can counter first day of class, and then same with Storm. No one's really been playing Chatterstorm, but it's also, I mean, this is, I don't know if, for me, this is why I'm not playing it. So I don't know if other people thought about Chatterstorm and then either they don't like the deck or they just saw how weak it is to Dispel and other discard that it's just so difficult to play. And then basically, I played in that 1-day tournament and I got to 4-0, and then the last round I played against Black-White Life Gain, and the deck just kind of really couldn't draw enough removal, and so sideboard I just added in the Fiery Impulse, and then the Braid is just a solid sideboard card because you need to answer, especially when this deck, or in the way that I built it with the Ardent Elementalist, recursion, you need to have the Braids to answer relics. And so they're nice that they kind of do double duty in your sideboard, as you can bring them in against aggro decks, and you can bring them in against decks that you're expecting the opponent to bring in a couple relics. And this Sphinx is just kind of random, trying to see if getting a Zealot in play, attacking with it. What's nice about it is the 1 damage it deals, you also gain life for that damage. But I think the big thing that's going to keep you in the game against aggro decks is just removing their creatures. You just have to be able to remove them in Historic Pauper. So yeah, hopefully my talking through these 2 decks kind of shows where I'm coming from. Obviously, I like playing decks that have blue. I think Counterspell is one of the most interesting cards to play with, and so I always like to play with some sort of counter and some sort of way to answer. But now we just get much more efficient cards, and then in the new deck, that new Counterspell with the Poison Control deck. Yeah, and then I like to have like random little 1-ofs to just get me out of tight situations. So this is weird quirks of my deck building. I think it's more justified in the other deck where there's the recursion of the Mystic Sanctuary to bring back the random spells, but I still think there's value in having random 1-ofs that just kind of shut down an opponent and just are always that threat of, if you keep drawing in your deck, which both of these decks obviously draw a ton of cards. I mean, this is a draw 2, this is a draw 2, this is a draw 2, and this is a draw 2. So you're just churning through the whole deck, and so you're able to find these random 1-ofs like Debt to the Kami and stuff like that. And then even though you have the 1-ofs, the 4-ofs of the main combo plus 4 Faceless Agents to search it out. Now the issue I ran into, actually, I think they might have changed the way it works, is because up until maybe a month ago, Faceless Agent would not search up other Faceless Agents. But now there's a chance. So I think the way that the math works is, because it sometimes happens, and I think the way the math works is whatever your most is. So generally, you don't want to cast a Faceless Agent until you have either the Familiar or the Zealot in hand. And then so with one of those in hand, then the Faceless Agent will look at your deck, and then so say you have the Familiar in hand. So the most creatures in your, or the creature type with the most most cards in your deck would be Zealot or Cyclops Berserker. So when you cast a Faceless Agent, it will search for a Cyclops Berserker, but there's 3 other Faceless Agents that count in your deck as Cyclops Berserker. So you basically you have a 4 out of 7 chance to draw it. Now that stinks, because sometimes you're kind of stuck in this situation, in this loop where you're casting a Faceless Agent, you're like really desperately getting bared down by an aggro deck, and you're really trying to find the Zealot so you can play it and just crash in with it. And it just keeps searching up other Faceless Agents. So that's an issue, but it was a benefit like against control decks and like Endless's deck today, where I just chained faceless to faceless, and it was just enough pressure that I was able to finish the game with just one like Alpha Strike, where he probably, I think he had like 7 cards in hand, so it was just like slowly grinding down. So I think despite that kind of issue with it searching itself, it's overall a better plan than like throwing in more deadly disputes. That's like kind of a consideration, is maybe +1 deadly dispute and -1 flight agent. So then when you're searching for zealots, instead of being a 4 out of 7, it's a 4 out of 6. So you're at a 66% chance. So it's slightly better. And then once you get the other agents out of your deck, then it's it's 100%. Yeah. Okay, I guess that's it. I'm going to try to start uploading things, so let me know if you want to hear more deck techs or if you just like to see the gameplay.